Okay, so we're going to discuss the rubric for the first evaluation. Here is first section. Create a mixed template. And by create a mixed template, I mean create your own. Again, don't import somebody else's mixed template. Don't even import your current mixed template that you're using. I want you to start fresh. You're going to organize and color code your instruments in a logical order. One, put them in whatever order you want. Drums, bass, guitars, pianos, then keys, then synths, then strings, then vocals, then background vocals. That's my way of doing it. You can put the effects returns at the end, fader at the end. That's one way to organize your tracks. But also color code everything so that each instrument group has a different color. All drums one color, all guitars a color or a shade of that color. Okay, like I said, I use brown on guitars and I use all the different browns for the different rhythms and lead parts. Template must contain stem buses for instruments like drums and group elements. Sorry, I used like twice there. Like background vocals, strings, etc. So organize your tracks into buses so you can also have easier control when you need to make broad changes. So take all the drums and create a drum bus send, name it drum bus, then create an aux track. The input up to the aux track is the drum bus send you created, and then the output goes to your mix bus. Take all your guitars, or if you want to take all your rhythm instruments. If there's a piano and a rhythm guitar, take both of those and create a rhythm bus and then send that way. If you have multiple vocals, send all the vocals to a vocal bus. Figure out what makes sense to you so that if you have multiple tracks that can fall under one bus send, so you can process all of them at the same time, or maybe you just want to have that volume control in general to all of them, do that. That's at your own discretion, but the minimum I need to see is you guys creating a drum bus with an aux. Okay. Create a track group for your arrangement elements. So here's your drums. Grab all your drums, hit Command G, and create a drum group. And whether you use the global settings or your attributes, I tend to use attributes, make sure that the volume, the mute, and the solo and automation are all engaged. That makes your life a lot easier. So I want you to figure it out. All drums as a group, all buses as a group if you have a DI and an amp. If you have multiple guitars, you can make all the guitars a group, or if you have a lead guitar that's a DI and an amp and you want to have both on a group, create it that way. Guitar 2, DI amp in one group, however you want to organize it. I want to see groups. I want to just go here, do this, and see, yes, there are groups that you created. Those groups are named correctly. They don't say group 1, group 2, group 3, that I now have to click here to figure out what the heck is what. Okay? Everything needs to be named properly. Let me get rid of this just in case I don't blast us with some tone. Okay. Create 6 aux tracks for 3 different verbs and 3 different delays. Very simple. Again, I put my stuff at the end. All my effects returns at the end. So, create 6 aux tracks. Stereo, not mono. You're going to do, you can call it delay 1, delay 2, delay 3, or you can do verb small, verb medium, verb long, however you want to categorize it. Just do something descriptive that is easy for you to identify. If you want to call it verb spring, verb plate, verb ambience, cool. That makes sense. That means you will remember this if you have to open up the session a month from now, and me, the other person receiving this, I can read that and interpret something about it. Now you're also going to create stereo buses. So you can assign all the buses. And now you're going to rename it. Come on. You're going to right click on the bus, rename, delay 1. You're going to name it the exact same way that you're naming the actual tracks. So when you come over here and you assign it to delay 1, you can go over here and say, oh, delay 1, delay 1. Oh, look at that. It all matches up. Very easy to find. On these channels, I do not want you to put the pre-fader. Don't do that. I'll get into, when I get into effects, I'll explain the routing for that, but this is not a good way to do it. The pre-fader is a good idea if you're setting up cues, headphone cues, wedges for a mix on a live scenario. Everything else that's an effects send or a bus send, which you're sending to a drums, all that should be post-fader always. So now you have your 3 different verbs, 3 different delays. I want you to actually put 3 delays. If you're going with Pro Tools Basics plugins, just get mod delay 3 and dial up 3 different settings. That's fine. We're not going to get into this until later. I just want you to prepare this as part of your template. And then you can go to over here, you go to Avid, and you can get Reverb 2. And if you want to go and get a Reverb 1 there, just in case. Cool. I want to see 3 delay plugins, 3 reverb plugins. You're not going to use these reverbs and delays until we get to the effects lecture. I just want this to be part of your template. Okay? So I need to see that now at the beginning. Then the next part for your grading is you're going to balance your instruments. Create a rough mix of the song, balancing all the elements by categories. All the categories go back to your arrangement elements discussion. Okay? Your rhythm section, your counter rhythm, your pads, your leads, and your transition elements, or your fills, as it is addressed to in the book, and prioritize those in a way that you can hear everything proportionally to where you need to hear it. Drum, if it's a rock tune, definitely your bass and your drums need to be pretty in your face to drive. The vocal should be the next priority. The guitar should be slightly behind, but still reinforcing everything. Okay? Figure out that balance where it needs to be. I need to be able to see that if there are 12 tracks, I need to listen and hear 12 tracks proportionately. Okay? If you want to emphasize something, cool, but everything needs to be present. Stereo imaging. Place everything within the stereo image. You have a wide selection. Take advantage of it. One thing that is crucial for you to understand is I do expect to hear the drums panned according to the overhead. You're going to solo the overhead. You're going to listen to the snare, and you're going to pan the snare mic exactly where that is. Hopefully, they've recorded the overheads where the snare is in the middle. Hopefully, that's the case. The snare and the kick should go in the middle. Tom 1, if it sounds over here, then you pan Tom 1 there. Tom 2, Tom 3, pan the close mics of Tom 2 and Tom 3 exactly where you hear in the overheads. Hi-hat, ride, follow that image. I'm going to solo the overhead, all the drums. I'm going to solo the overhead by itself, and I'm going to mute and unmute all the tracks to make sure you follow the stereo image of the overheads. Then figure everything else out on if there's two guitar parts and they're both rhythms, pan them away from each other. You could do extreme, you can do 80-80, but take advantage of the image. If you have two lead vocals, like you will see in one of the songs, you can choose how to pan them. When each one's taking a turn on the lead, you can pan the leads up the middle. But if they're singing together on some parts, you can choose to leave them there in the middle if they're not fighting each other, or you can slightly pan them out away from each other so it fights less, or you can do a stereo image and have both leads left and right of you, and you can put something else in the middle. Be creative that way, but see what helps, what makes it interesting, what creates a nice image and balance. Okay? I do not want to see any mixes where the drums are panned and everything else is up the middle. That's not taking advantage of a stereo image. Proper gain staging. Go over every track and set up proper clip-based gains. Set proper levels for your rough mix with an average between -16 to -15 LUFS using mastering meter to determine this. So I want to see the Ulean plugin on your mixes, which again, this is free. The link's on the syllabus. And I want to see this read -16 when I play the song up top to bottom, around -16. I definitely do not want to see anything peaking. I don't want to see anything saying 0, 0. I want to see only a number in the negatives. Okay? I don't want to see anybody moving the master fader up and down. Master fader should read 0.0. I don't want you to move this to make sure that you don't peak. That's not the way to do it. You fix the mix before it gets to the end. I also do not want to see any hard limiters or mastering limiters on your master fader. No maxims, no L2s, L1s. I don't see any mastering or any limiters on the master fader. It affects your tone. That's in this case how I want you to work gain structure. Putting a master fader is cheating in this class. Work your way through the whole mix so you don't have to require that. That also means that not so much for this class, for this evaluation, but sorry, what I meant to do is this. For this evaluation, you won't really have any plugins up here, but I want to make sure that the channels aren't peaking. If you send all the drums to a drum bus, I don't want to see the metering on that drum bus clipping. Okay? And when you start sending signal to your aux and effects and stuff, none of that should be clipping. Okay? Again, that's going to be later in the future. Check phase. On multiple instrument mics, like drums, verify phase alignment on all mics against each other across the stereo pair. Like I started today's class, I want you to solo the overhead and then solo the kick, put a trim plugin on all the drum tracks and flip the phase and set it at where you don't have phase cancellation. Okay? Then unsolo the kick, solo the snare, check for phase, flip it back and forth and see where it sounds correct. Do that so that all the drum mics are phase aligned. Then, like every evaluation here, I'm going to separate your technical delivery of these parameters versus how effective it was as far as my perspective from an audio engineer. Yes, you created a proper stereo image, but was that a good use of the stereo image, or did you just throw things and just to get a grade? Okay, there's the technical side and then there's the creative side. My subjective evaluation is how well thought out that was. Was there a rhyme and reason to it? And did you do something creative? That's going to get you those subjective evaluation points. Okay. And then, of course, naming convention, that's a free 10 points right there. All you need to do is name it this way. And like I did mention in the class, what I want you to do is grab your Pro Tools session. Where do I have that? Let me go here. You're going to grab your, oh, actually, let me use a different example here. Sorry, guys. Go to student sessions, evaluation sessions, moving. I want you to name the track correctly. Okay, for example, moving along section 1, Finster Patrick, and I want you to now zip it. So right click and compress, and it's going to keep the name. And then upload this zip file to your Canvas assignment. I'm asking this semester because I noticed that Canvas renames the assignments and it adds all this extra stuff that made it harder for me to figure some things out, and it caused some other issues. So what'll happen is I'll receive this zip file, it'll rename it to this, but now I can open it and what'll be left is this, and that'll be nice and clear for me. And that is it for the evaluation. Any questions from you guys as to what to deliver for this evaluation?
I have a question about the phase. So if we're soloing the overheads and I solo the snare too, and it is out of phase, what do I do going forward from there?
So on the trim plugin, if you flip the phase and it sounded better, and to your ears you think this is how it should have been tracked, leave it like that. And then you go to the tom 1. Let's say tom 1 is out of phase, but tom 2 and tom 3 is not out of phase, then you don't hit the phase button. You leave the trim buttons there so I know that you tried it out. But what I will do is I will go to, whether you're using the trim plugin or if you're going to use the EQ7, since the next class that we're going to use is EQ. If you want to use an EQ7 and use the phase button there, that's completely fine. I will click on whatever plugins you have there, and I will check that you actually flip the phase. And like I said, I have a little chart that tells me moving along, these channels are out of phase, and I'm going to go to those and make sure that you flip the phase correctly on those.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from this rubric that I need to explain differently or one more time for you guys? We all good?
I'm good.
Okay, so the evaluation is due on the 28th of this week, and next Monday we will be grading. I will be going over the evaluation of the class. So your evaluations will be graded by the time the class starts, and we will be discussing the results of in class. I'll probably take one student that I feel got all or most of it right to show an example of this is what I was looking for, and I'll pick one or two students or multiple students that I've noticed a couple of things that they might not have understood correctly. I'll pull those sessions up to explain what was the difference. Okay, at all times, I want this to be a growing, developing process for you guys. If you made mistakes, that's fine. I want you guys to make the mistakes here in class so I can address them here. So when you leave this class and you start working with clients, you don't embarrass yourself with clients. You don't get into issues with the client's projects. Okay. Okay. Take care, guys. Have a great week. Have fun with your mixes.